to study and debate the increase in motor fuel user tax. The last adjustment the legislature voted in Missouri was in 1992, and at that time it gradually phased into the current level of 17 cents per gallon in 1996. This rate has remained the same for the last 20 years. In 2016 dollars, that 17 cents is now worth approximately 8 cents in purchasing power. Counties and cities also receive approximately 30% of this 8-cent value. That means MoDOT share is approximately 5.6 cents per gallon in terms of real purchasing power. Back in 1996, that purchasing power, net purchasing power after the cut to the cities and counties, was around 11.9. So you can see in 20 years our purchasing powers went down over 60% to purchase concrete and other commodities that we need. So since the mid-1990s, concrete, steel, labor, and other costs are estimated to have increased by as much as 200%. The deteriorating condition of our roads and bridges should be a major personal safety and economic concern to all Missourians. Many of our bridges are capable of failing at any time. From an economic development standpoint, what company would want to locate or expand in Missouri? They need reasonable assurance and expectation that our roads and bridges will be maintained and improved to meet their freight and distribution needs both now and in the future. Since 1924, by a vote of Missourians on how they wanted to fund and get out of mud and dirt and drive on hard surface roads, 92 years ago, Mr. Chairman, the citizens voted to invest in their highways by a motor fuel user tax. That's how they determined they could pay for it. At that time, it was 2 cents per gallon. And Mr. Chairman, gasoline at that time sold for around 11 cents a gallon. In my opinion, this is still the best, most reliable, and fairest form of highway maintenance revenue because highway users actually pay for it. And some of my research, and research by others, another important thing to remember is approximately 50% of the motor fuel user tax that's collected in the state of Missouri is by non-residents of Missouri passing through. Just like Missourians do when they go on vacation or on business, we helped fund other states' highways and infrastructure needs. So you can see a motor fuel user tax don't necessarily just stick 100% of the cost on Missourians like some other ideas that's been brought forth through other types of revenue. We need a long-term transportation funding policy now, or we can put our heads back in the sand expecting the problem to solve itself, which, as you know, our country does a good job of doing that. This is a policy that has been followed for the past 20 years by having the head in the sand. Whenever the inevitable bridge closures occur and highways continue deteriorating, what excuse then will be acceptable to the citizens of this state? We cannot say I didn't know, because that's one of the reasons why we're here today. Myself, I've been in a lot of areas of the state talking about the conditions of highways and bridges and the importance of it, not only on economic development, but also the safety of our families and the safety of the motoring public. So we cannot say I didn't know, because the people will know that we just simply failed in our duty as elected representatives. Want to kick the can down the road, we already mentioned that. For the last 20 years, we've done a really good job of that. You know, the head in the sand, and hope it takes care of itself. But you also know that sometimes detractors never have a plan. They always find what the problems are, the problem that they may have with a certain bill or something, but they very seldom ever have a plan. So this is a plan. The plan was established. I didn't establish this plan. This plan was established in 1924. So it's not a new plan, and it's not a new tax. It's an adjustment. Another thing I want to mention is the national average of fuel taxes in the United States is approximately 30 cents a gallon right now. Now, that's not counting, if you travel through Illinois, you can pay a lot of excise taxes, sales taxes on top of their fuel tax. Sometimes, depending on what municipality or county you may be in, you may be paying as much as 50 or 60 cents a gallon. So I think at 17 cents, Missouri and MoDOT's done a great job of doing what they can with what they got. And I know there's a couple bond issues passed that allowed us. We'd really be in trouble if we didn't have those, probably. Another thing I would like to touch on is why sales tax probably would never ever really work real well. A perfect example right now, in testimony here a moment ago, said his daughter bought gas at $1.49 not too long ago. Well, if you would have based a sales tax on it, you would have had fluctuation of selling prices, and that would have been hard to be predictable on what you're going to have on a 5 or 10-year plan. Also, Senator Romine mentioned a few moments ago, you know, we were elected to come up here to make decisions. And as long as we stay inside the purview of what the voters decided through the Hancock Amendment is a responsibility we have to make. So I'm okay with people voting no, and I'm okay with people voting yes. But we have the responsibility to take care of the assets that the taxpayers have worked so hard and have paid through their hard sweat and work every time they buy a gallon of gas. And they expect to have a road that's safe and not be destroying their cars or having a family member injured or killed at that time. The average motorist will probably pay around $7 to $10 a year if they drive around 15,000 miles. So what does it cost to get a wheel balanced or front end aligned? Or what does it cost to have an accident? What about the school bus coming home late at night down in my district or many other rural districts, but not necessarily rural, but a lot of times I mention rural because it's dark. What would happen if a bridge did happen to falter? We have lots of bridges in this state over 75 years old with engineering capabilities maybe of 50 years when it was previously engineered. So who's going to answer that call? We need to answer it right now, this year, and get something moving on this. So again, this is not Senator Libla's idea on how to pay for roads and bridges. Somebody in 1924 determined that through a vote of the people, that's how they wanted to fund highways, roads, and bridges. So 92 years of precedent. And you know, there's a lot of mention about the 3 Ps, you know, the public-private partnership. Well, Senator Libla's got his own 4 Ps. Okay, I got 4 Ps. I had to put an extra P on it, okay? Mine is it's predictable in motor fuel user tax, but it's done by purchases, usage, and that's relatively been pretty flat for several years now. Little uptick here and there. It's also prudent. It's practical. It's easy to monitor. We're already doing it. And as I mentioned previously, it has precedent.